Edmund Wraithe loved nothing in the world so much as old books. His collection filled every shelf in his aunt's house and grew a little larger every year, much to her quiet despair. One afternoon, he traveled up to London to choose curtains for the new house he and his Aunt Margaret were building. His route happened to pass one of the finest old bookshops in the city, and he could not resist stepping inside, just for a moment. An hour vanished. Among a shelf of local histories, he found a slim volume titled The Diary of Mr. Fenn, 1710, and bought it at once. Only when he checked his watch did he remember the curtains and his train. He ran for the station and caught it with seconds to spare, the curtains entirely forgotten. That evening, his aunt questioned him eagerly about the new furniture, and Edmund described it all in loving detail. But when she asked about the curtains, he went pale. "Oh dear," he said. "That's the one thing I missed. I was on my way to the shop when I passed a bookshop, quite by chance." "Not another old book," she groaned. Edmund, don't tell me." "Only one," he admitted. "The diary of a man who lived near here long ago." She was already talking about the trip they'd have to make next Thursday, and did not seem to hear him. She retired early, and Edmund sat up long into the night with his new book, fascinated by its small, ordinary details of a vanished country life. The next afternoon, after church, his aunt picked up the diary herself, teasing him about the book that had cost them their curtains. Flipping through it idly, she stopped at a page where a small piece of paper had been pinned, and on it was a delicate, curling pattern, drawn in fine black lines that seemed almost to move as she turned it in the light. "Isn't this lovely?" she said, entirely won over. "Why don't we have this copied for the curtains?" Glad to be forgiven, Edmund agreed, and the next day carried the paper to a firm in town who undertook to reproduce the pattern in fabric. A month later, he returned to inspect the finished curtains and was delighted with them. "Was it hard work?" he asked the tailor. "Not difficult, sir, though I'll be honest. The woman who stitched the pattern didn't care for it. Said there was something unpleasant in the design, couldn't say why." Edmund thought little of this at the time. He chose the trimmings and went home satisfied. When the curtains were hung, one set in his own bedroom, he found himself unable to stop looking at them. Though the night was still, the fabric seemed to stir faintly, as though someone stood behind it, watching. He told himself firmly not to be foolish. The curling lines, he reasoned, simply resembled long, dark, tangled hair, and that was all. A friend came to stay a few nights later, and the two of them talked and laughed by the fire until quite late before finally going up to bed. Edmund's guest was shown to the room along the hall. Edmund himself lingered by his own fire a while longer with a book and dozed off in his chair. He woke to the sense that something was in the room with him. Reaching out sleepily, his hand found something warm and thickly covered in hair, and, thinking it was his dog, who had a habit of following him everywhere, he murmured, "How did you get up here? I thought I left you downstairs." Then he looked down. It was not the dog. It was something almost human in shape, and where a face should have been, there was nothing. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, only hair. Edmund screamed and threw himself at the door, fumbling at the handle in blind terror as the thing rose and reached for him, tearing at the back of his nightshirt. The door gave way at last, and he fled straight to his friend's room, shaking and unable to speak for several minutes. At first light, he left for the coast, taking the diary with him, determined to learn more about the strange pattern pinned inside it. Turning again to that page, he noticed for the first time that several scraps of paper had been pinned there together, one atop another. Carefully separating them, he found beneath the drawing an entry written by Mr. Fenn himself in 1707. Old Mr. Cosby of Denning told me today the history of young Sir Cyril Ashworth, then a student at the college in town. Sir Cyril was a wild young man, given to drink and worse, but as his family was of great standing, nothing was ever done about his conduct. He wore his hair unusually long, curling down past his collar, and dressed in strange, bright clothes that troubled his father greatly. One morning, he was found dead in his room, every hair torn from his head, and no man could say how or why he had died. Stranger still, the following day, his body itself had vanished, leaving behind only a great heap of long, curling black hair upon the floor. His father kept some of it and had drawings made from it, one of which I have pinned within these pages. So ended the strange history behind the curtains. Before he returned home, Edmund sent word ahead to his servants. Every curtain in the house was to be taken down at once and burned.